Hi, this is Richie here at the Metal Cell Podcast. That was the stunning echo location from Arjuna's Eye. I'm delighted to say that Sean, Conor and Aaron are here. How are you, lads?
How's it going, Richie?
Great, man.
Phew, what a night. Shitty night, raining outside, and we're here in the comfort of the studio. Want to congratulate you on Amalgam. What's the feedback so far in relation to people listening to it?
Yeah, it's been really good. I know a lot of people, I suppose, getting personal messages from friends and family and stuff, but the sincerity of the message is what's kind of hitting home for me, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised, really, that people are, you know, they're finding it so well received, or they're taking it on, like, and not everybody would be into the kind of music or as heavy, because I suppose, you know, there is kind of a good balance between a little bit of light and heavy throughout, and you know, and like, and I suppose, you know, respect from our peers too, like, you know, there's a nice bit of support there too.
Yeah. Cool. And you were involved in engineering at Conor?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of background have you in that?
Yeah, no, I give a shout out there to my buddy David Sproul, longtime friend. He kind of showed me the ropes, and no formal training, you know, or anything like that, but he kind of just showed me the basics as far as things are plugged in.
Cool.
Things are not clipping, and you're good to go then.
Okay, deadly. And it was mastered then by Bart over in the Room Studios in Holland.
I think and he's in Tilburg there. Bart Hennepoff. He did the mixing and mastering, and
cool. And you got to know him through
through actually a friend of mine who kind of reached out as a fan of Textures, his band, of course, to begin with, and we were lucky enough to actually open for Textures there a couple of years ago when they came to Dublin. Very cool opportunity.
On their final tour.
On their farewell tour.
On their farewell tour, yeah.
Oh, right. Very good.
It was a first and only time I think they played Ireland, so it was kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, and a headliner anyway.
Yeah. Well, we didn't. Yeah. So.
And he actually worked on Invisible Landscapes as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Through a friend, actually, my buddy, another buddy back home there, he was on to Bart. I don't know how we figured out to get on to him,
right?
But just the opportunity to do some studio work, the mixing and mastering, a little bit of production help and things like that. And I kind of said, well, if you can do it, I can do it too, I guess. And and so from 2013 onward, I suppose.
Yeah, you've had a good friendship since.
Yeah,
you know? Like, I love the way you brought us all along on the adventure while you were recording it, you know, with the YouTube clips.
Oh, yeah.
They were deadly. Where actually were you kind of practicing, I suppose?
So there was kind of hidden location.
Very secret, top secret room.
Top secret bunker.
We call it the Green Door.
Yeah. It's a room.
Were you allowed in there first of all?
Yeah. I suppose we have to give a mention to our father, Aaron, and with my Jimmy Farrell. It's through his connection there with the Dockyard and Cove, and we have a room in there that's our rehearsal room. And you know, up to last summer, Conor just said, "Look, right, I'm bringing down my computer, my gear there. Let's just start putting down the demos."
Yeah.
And from that point on, like, it was up to, like, was it last August we actually officially started recording the album,
right?
And a couple of demos were already done. You had some guitar scratch tracks and the drum programmed and stuff like that for a couple of songs, and
there was
there was a couple of older riffs and stuff you would kind of brought back to the table again,
even from before Invisible Landscape,
the first album.
Oh, cool. So some songs went back that far.
And
just
see them change.
Riffs anyway.
There's actually two songs there that are about 8 years old now.
Man, that's mad.
Or at least you know the
the mechanics of some of them. Is it?
The bones of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, the mechanics, utterance of a mechanical man was one of them. So
you've got funny there.
Spot on.
To be fair, Hibernia was an
older
demo as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Actually, that one in particular was the one that I had written and been inspired by my first trip to Ireland when I first came back to I came back to Canada, of course, and that was the first one that I kind of went after, and nothing really came of it. And then I was like, we got to do this one, guys. You know, we have to do this one.
So, it also had kind of an emotional attachment too.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's sweet,
definitely,
man. Yeah. And I love the clip as well of the anvil. Tell us about the story about the anvil.
Sean's a blacksmith.
So I suppose the song Kronos, I mean, It's that kind of stemmed from Conor's idea, I think. First of all, I think because we didn't know what the song was going to be. We were going, oh my god, what is this like? I'm not so sure. Is this going to make it or whatever? But every time I've heard a version of it after Conor been working on it, it had changed so much into something completely bloody different. So who knows what was in his head? But Kronos, I suppose if anyone's up to scratch with their Greek mythology, like isn't he the keeper of time or something like that, and one of these gods, and that he wanted to just rule everything, and he started eating everybody around him, eating his children, so there'd be no successors and all this kind of thing. And he was capturing all the other gods, like so, and like Zeus was what Conor, you might tell the story better about the couple of main gods being saved or something like that by someone else. Or go on, you'd have to go.
So,
give a go there.
One of the so he's going to eat all his children there, Kronos, right? Because he wants to be like Sean was saying, ruler of the universe, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So time ruling the universe. It's definitely metaphorical anyway, right? Right. And but the one that his last child there was Zeus, I guess, and he was tricked. So it was like a blanket wrapped around a stone. So the god, Kronos ended up eating a stone. Zeus plans to break these titans out of prison or something that and whatever, and so these titans came back. These cyclops kind of came back to forge these weapons.
So it's getting back to the anvil. I
so
was
it's
thinking,
coming.
have you gone too far?
No. This is where it's
all comes around.
Yeah. So he forged, like Zeus's lightning bolt and Hades' helmet. And
was the forge not? Was it in a volcano or something?
That's where they were imprisoned. Sorry,
imprisoned.
They're imprisoned there in a volcano. Yeah.
Brilliant. So. Go on.
We'll go on. I'll take it from here now. But the Cyclops, maybe not everybody knows, and I didn't know that they were supposed to be master craftsmen, and that was the whole point.
Okay.
So that's where we said, oh my god, what I know where we could get an actual anvil, like so. My good friend Barry Walsh in Cork there. Shout out to Barry and his dad, Senior Barry Senior, for the use of his anvil, and it's appearing on the album. So you can hear it clearly. I'm sure you can, through the part of the song. Yeah. So that I remember growing up in Barry's garage, hanging out, and in garage bands there for years, and there was always this anvil in the corner, just rusting away or whatever. And I goes, oh my god, I get on to Barry and sees that anvil still up there,
But 9 times out of 10, they're never there. If
you're,
So it was actually.
So in fact, we actually went into the shed and rummaged. An old shed now that's kind of falling down. It was heartbreaking to see because all our old graffiti was there and everything.
Class,
because, oh my god, there's 3 broken lawnmowers, but there's no sign of the bloody anvil, But we were about to leave, and here it was, just to the side of the shed, out to the right hand side of the door, and so we said, right, let's give it a go. I had a Zoom H1, is it? That we recorded it on, just put it on the tripod. I had a lump hammer, and I had I actually put on safety glasses as well, because definitely didn't want any kind of, because I knew I was going to be giving it a good lash, So I put the track on my phone in my ears, and I just started banging away to the rhythm of that section of the song, and that's where that came from. So all that's where it came from, but the second meaning to the song is that, if you're down on your luck and you can't face your I suppose your future or your life or something like that, you can't see a way out, just dig deeper, stoke the fire once more, you have these skills to carry on with what you're doing, just try and remember yourself and get out there and get at it again,
Yeah, that's a great description, actually. So look, while you're at it now, you might as well just kind of do a quick run through of, maybe, if you don't mind, some of the songs. Sure. The first song, Beast Mode, featuring Amy. Is she your sister?
Yeah.
Amy's our sister. Yeah.
And
our
Conor,
sister,
she's your sister.
She's my sister from another mister, man.
Yeah, that's cool. How did Amy come on to the project?
So I guess at the end of it, do you know what? It starts with I suppose at the end of the song, how that final chorus, and we thought, it'd be cool, that line, all things in cyclical motion and all that. And we're going over how are we going to finish that out, and it'd be really cool if we try and combine just the full chorus over, and then the shortened version of it in a more melodic way, and that was all Aaron's idea.
Yeah, it was,
because we were just I was just scratching my head at the mic, going, oh god, what are we going to do here?
I just kind of doubled the timing and length of it, and drew out the actual sentence that Sean is singing over it in the background. So for every 2 sentences he's singing, we're singing one kind of thing. But it has a nice effect. I can glad it
Yeah.
worked out.
There's lovely smatterings of it right through the album, actually.
Yeah, that's something
It's
we
really
weren't
nice.
even aware was going to happen, really, because the songwriting process was kind of on the roll all the time. We didn't arrive somewhere and have 9 songs ready, you know.
Yeah.
That was
half of it was actually Kronos, especially. I just have to mention that it was Sean and Conor wrote the song and recorded it entirely themselves while I was actually away working in Holland, about I don't know, 50 miles away from Bartenapa, funny enough.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I just want to say for the two of them to have this song done and written and recorded in the whole very short space of time. Really.
This work for you to do and stress about.
Well, it's the only song I had to learn. I got to write the rest of the bass lines. You know?
Yeah.
But getting back to Amy.
Yeah, so like when we realised that the luxury we had was time.
Okay.
So like we go, so look, I'll throw in a couple of layers of harmony there. That might sound nice. And then we kind of looked at each other after hearing it back. I go, do you know what would be cool? I bet you Amy would be brilliant over this as well. Like,
and we can't reach those high
realised
notes
so-
anywhere. We're like, that's out of our skill
so
set.
she was
Yeah.
only thrilled to come along and
do a fantastic
do.
job.
I don't know how many layers we did or whatever, do you know what I mean? But that's what you hear at the end is mostly Amy's voice there at the end.
And the song itself, what's it about, roughly?
Well, what? So just we can almost like kind of
Short
make
version.
a gloss over for
Yeah,
everything real
exactly,
quick as far as all the songs go. It's kind of starting off with the skeleton of the songs and going, we have to call this something, right? So whether it was a name that was floating around, usually it's like one word or a phrase that was floating around in my brain is like, okay, let's just call it that for now. And Sean's kind of like, no, that's good. I'm gonna build lyrics around this. Like, what do you mean by that? You know, so he'd pick my brain slightly, and then off he went with to write the song.
It's like naming a riff to differentiate something, and then I go, oh yeah, hold on a sec, no, that is pretty, you know, and then an idea, because I suppose it's nearly like a tribute almost, we'll say, to every nature and science program I've ever watched since I was a child, you know what I mean? It starts off mainly about the Ice Age and how I'm fascinated with how changes in the earth and everything took place to get where we are today and all that, and how I suppose the idea of the chorus is that all things in cyclical motion, governed by revolutions, the promise kept, the debt repaid, forever falling into the sun, meaning like that. You know, if it, like we're spinning around in the galaxy through the universe, and everything is in circles. Like, you know, the Earth's going around the sun, the moon's going around the Earth. Everything's in cycles, and this is where we get our seasons. It's how our Earth is shaped. It's why we're walking on 2 legs and talking, that kind of thing. And
I think
another way of saying
the song reflects it as well, lads. Instrumentally wise as well. It's really beautiful, the way it builds up. Then just the way it fades out is class.
Cool.
So we talked about Cronus, Trial of Grasses. Anyone want to take that one?
Trial of the Grasses. So like Conor's a big game geeker, or gamer geek.
I'm a bit of a gamer to be fair, but this one's specific, I suppose. I got a soft spot for something called The Witcher, and so there's a Polish book series. Basically, it's basically the Polish Game of Thrones, right?
Okay.
They call it dark fantasy anyway. So there's these great books anyway, and within the books and the lore, and there's an excellent video game too, by the way. Everybody should play that. But within the lore, basically, of this world, something called Trial of the Grasses is something that these young boys get taken in when their parents have to pay a debt to these people that help them. Okay. These children are taken in, they're put through these tests, basically almost like a monastery type situation, but to slay monsters, right? Okay. And out of the 10 of them, maybe 3 of them will survive, and they go through these Trial of the Grasses things where they're injected with chemicals and all sorts, and
to me sold on the books already.
There you go. Yeah, but it's more or less, it's like basically if you can take the enhancements, you'll advance. If you can't take the enhancements, these kids end up dying basically.
And what was the name of the books they're from?
The Witcher.
The Witcher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Richie, you can probably nearly tell that there's a bit of a pattern forming here, like that. There's 2 stories nearly per song, or how the 2 meanings. It'll mean one thing to Conor, and lyrically then I have kind of nearly try and put a realistic everyday take on it then. That's kind of literally for maybe 2/3 of the album, and then you know, everything else is fairly direct, spot on, exactly what's been talked about. Like, but I mean, The Witcher would be about someone who's in a beg your pardon. The Tri-Letter Grasses, from my point of view, the lyrics would probably talk about someone who's maybe stuck in a toxic relationship or in a dodgy spot and really wants to get out, like, or wants to make a big change in their life, kind of thing as well. But like with that test or that trial, you in mind from where that stemmed, like from that
very good
story, like
utterance of a mechanical man. You had a talk about that. It's an old one. Lyrically.
Yeah. Lyrically, it's really all Sean. That name of the song was there, I suppose, since the beginning. 7-8 years or whatever. But something else, I guess.
And I suppose it kind of steered the idea of the writing process. Then, really, didn't it? Just to try and form out of one sentence or a few words, the whole story developed. Really, like, didn't it?
Yeah, with the notion of the rise of AI and technology as we see it in our hand today, every day. Let the lies lull you back to sleep to where you were born.
Keep your head down on the screen.
That there's this, I don't know, some kind of fucking overlord fucking AI robot that actually eventually takes over the whole Earth, like, but fails, and because the humanity eventually kind of pulls through and kind of, or whatever, I suppose
it's a bit of fun.
It's a bit of fun, yeah. So my favorite track is on Mac Tira.
On Mac Tira Bon.
On Mac Tira Bon.
Yeah, it's my favorite track. I fucking love it.
Cool.
Next one.
Can you give us an insight into that one? And the vocal performance is fantastic.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's probably one of my favorite ones now that Sean does as well.
Yeah. Yep. Well
Thanks. Do you know when on Mac Tira Bon is another guitar riff idea stem from Conor, and it goes, oh yeah, do you know when it's just guitar and the programmed drums, and hearing the first the verse part. And at a demo stage, he goes, "Oh my God, yeah, you can nearly hear a wolf creeping through the woods there."
Yeah.
And I thought, "Oh my God, you know what would be class?" And I know, like, Amok Tiraban would mean the white wolf, and not the. And then I just thought of, oh yeah, what about the wolves in Ireland? Whatever happened to them? Yeah. And I just looked into it and discovered that it was Oliver Cromwell that got rid of them all,
and
that's
everywhere.
Kind of basically it. And I thought to myself, what about the accuracy of this now? Like, I know there probably wasn't white wolves there, but after the Ice Age, when the water levels rose, like, there must have been some breeds of white wolf there, like, as well, like, but the white wolf maybe standing out for being an elderly kind of wise wolf, like telling the story over a period of thousands of years. And I think this wolf on Mac Tira Bon might be the last wolf that was killed up in the Wicklow Mountains there, like, and he's telling his younger
story of the wolves,
the story of the wolves in Ireland, like,
cool,
and the coming of man, and all this kind of thing, like.
And how the great Irish wolfhounds were bred to hunt them.
Yeah.
In the first place, like,
that's
kind of a paradoxical thing, I suppose, in some way. Yeah.
Will you be releasing lyrics with all these lads? I think it's important because so
far,
like, it's fascinating.
I think
there's been a major interest in it, and like with the couple of YouTube, the first 2 songs that were released on YouTube. Anyway, we did add the lyrics underneath the YouTube stuff. I
but
think
as regards a lyrical video, like, it's something we'll probably have to get around to.
But like, even on Bandcamp,
actually, that's the place that we were thinking specifically.
Just pull down
would be a great idea.
Options there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that the songs deserve.
We got your vote, do we, Richie?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, nice one.
Done.
Cheers, man.
We're gonna add that to the list. Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Because we didn't know if we were going to do physical copies on CD, and that would obviously the obvious place to put them. So if we can do it online, great. Yeah.
So we'll direct everybody to Bandcamp there.
Yeah, exactly. Echolocation, which you heard, which was the first song, brilliant song. Quick synopsis.
About Aaron's bass line is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Big fan of it.
It's an older one, actually.
Strings.
Yeah, well, that's actually that's one of the that was probably the second song that we actually wrote as a band. We have that written a while, but I don't think we changed much for the album. But I just thought I'd once I got my hands on writing a bass riff, I thought I'd slip in a bit of slap there at the start, like.
It's nice, it works.
So, it shows my roots, like. But I hope it works for metal, anyway.
Definitely,
it certainly does.
Romulus and Remus.
There we go. Aaron, take it away.
That's fully Aaron's song
Greek
over there.
mythology here again. The actual.
Can we
Roman
start
mythology.
where it came from first?
Okay. Well, I suppose
Roman mythology.
It actually started. I rarely, being a bass player, it's rare that you kind of develop the guitar riffs or the theme of the song, how it runs and everything. But I just happened to come up with a few riffs and linked them together and recorded them on my phone, which I never did. And I was like, I'm going to do it this time now. I'm going to make sure I have something to come back and, write off.
I want to thank Cork for that idea.
yeah.
And lose it.
So, it didn't take long really before, I suppose, the length of a song had developed, and just, the forms of chorus, verse type of thing. But so I suppose the whole chunk of the song, while I was working in Holland, I came home one weekend or something, and I managed to get down a rough few run-throughs of the whole thing, and left it up to the lads to whether they needed to lengthen any bars or anything like that. But which they, in fairness, towards the end, maybe a couple of bars got extended or another one was added. But to come back from Holland and see what the lads had written around the whole song, and I just said I'd like the name to be Romulus and Remus, and Sean just went away and I think researched the whole thing, the whole story of these two Greek. It's an old Greek myth. Another one.
Can I just mention too? At first listen to Romulus and Remus, it's like, all right, fair enough. There's a little bit of Macedonian riffing going on there and that kind of thing, or some big chords and kind of a back and forth call and answer thing with the vocals. But if there's any bass players listening to it, and if you actually put on some headphones or listen up closely, the bass lines that are going on underneath everything, it's busy enough, and you wouldn't know it at first listen, I don't think, unless you're really tuned in. But if you do listen in, you'd be I think you'd be surprised at the work that everyone's actually put into
the whole
it.
song. My God! This a note to every band out there as well. By the way, if you ever hear, sorry guys, and I'm just trying to really pump. I'm pumped for air on because it is a kick-ass song, and I was just going to say, for every band out there, if you ever don't ever underestimate your bass player. If he's there whacking away in the corner, plucking away, whatever you want to call it, right? Don't ignore him, all right? It just might be one of the best songs that come out of the band. Yeah. Oh my God, there's two references there. That's actually
let's confirm he said whacking. Right.
And anyway, that's how things are born.
Cool.
Well, it's not uncommon, really. Geezer Butler and all those.
He's always whacking away.
Yeah. Just don't take your bass players for granted. That's all.
Cool.
That's it.
Cortexipan, is that it? Cortexipan?
Cortexipan, yeah.
Right.
Well,
what's that one?
I suppose that name stems from an old program. Well, not old, really.
It's an Easter egg, really.
Yeah, it's another Easter egg, a bit like Trail of the Grasses. I suppose only people who would have seen a show called Fringe years ago.
Yes, Fringe.
I think
Yes.
it was who was the director again? It was
J.J.
J.J.
Abrams.
Yeah. So there was if anyone knows the story of it, there's young children who have the ability to cross between worlds and things like that. But the drug they were given as children to kind of boost that or enable that was called Cortexiphan. And so we thought there was a nice little thing. And again,
it turned out we were all fans of the show,
so
real fans, watched
in
every
a
episode.
literal sense as well.
Nerds.
The lyrics are kind of a description of almost what happens, but without knowing that, you could take any kind of there's a whole story going on there.
I'm a fan of the show, and I'm glad you explained that because I wouldn't have.
Go back and have a listen now that you know.
We're big supporters of Walter Bishop.
Walter, man, who doesn't like Walter?
Yeah, he's a big fan of LSD, so
We're not.
It's a fictional character.
We're not pushing the drugs out there, just
And the last one then, Hibernia. That's Bart's big synth solo, isn't it?
No. That Trial of the Grasses was with the synth solo.
Oh yeah, that was the huge, massive.
But Bart does
that's the one note synth
solo in Hibernia.
The pitch bend thing.
Bart does. Bart plays a lead guitar part, and
Okay,
primarily.
I was sorry for cutting across because I was wondering why you credited him for that, and I was just going, is he just taking the piss there because he just did a one note synth solo?
No, the guitar solo in that song, because it was actually when we were over in the Netherlands hanging out with, working with Bart over there doing the mixing over a weekend and listening back, I should say. He did the mixing, but we were kind of just giving our feedback, make sure everything was sounding nice. And we got to Hibernia, we're listening through it, and this part came in as just supposed to be a bit of a breakdown bit, a bit of a groove part, and he's like, this needs a solo, and I'm like, okay, dude, have at it, if you'd and the drummer on the first album there, Yuma Van Eekelen, he's a close friend of Bart's. He does Lights for Textures. He's in a band called Exvius. He's also in a band called Our Oceans. But amazing drummer, a fusion metal style, absolutely over the top skill set. But we were joking about how Bart's just an amazing guitarist in general, but he never plays leads. You know,
okay.
well able, but never
Yeah.
plays leads. And so I was like, let's
Here's your
let's
chance.
let's squeeze a solo out of him.
That
You
was
know,
really cool. Then, to
Yeah,
have that,
and
yeah.
we were very, very, very fortunate that he put in the time and the way it came out too. Yeah, it's all kind of
Yeah.
syncapated over the top. And
He's
once you
so
get-
good it didn't take any time at all. I'd say.
No, I'd say yeah, it's like 2 hours. I was like, it's done. Yeah.
And Dave was Dave your brother involved in this as well? Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
David,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. A big shout out to David Farrell for playing the low whistle. I gave him, I suppose it was the demo version of it, so he could listen to it. Because I said, Dave, there's some Celtic type of a feel to the song anyway.
Yes.
What do you reckon?
Absolutely.
And wind instruments would be his thing, and I suppose he'd, he absolutely was delighted at the opportunity. And originally the part was supposed to be at the very start as an intro,
Right.
and so we were working with him with that, and we only got that in, it was an afternoon or something like that. I can't remember. It was a very short time. He listened to it for a while, obviously, and he just came back with that, and he said, "Is that okay?" Or I was like, "Yeah, boy, that's amazing." And so you can hear probably programmed synth and strings at the end with that as well to
Waves
complement
on the
it.
beach and stuff.
Oh yeah, the waves.
They're
We
actually
were in Bart's house at the studio, and he goes, "Do you know what?" Because it was I have a, from day one, once I heard this demo, I had this mad picture in my head. I mean, the story about Hibernia, this, it's what the Romans used to call Ireland, and it's kind of like the story, like as if what if Rome had actually conquered Ireland and settled.
I tried anyway.
And so the waves at the end, like the lapping the shore, kind of it's like as if it's, I don't know,
Yeah,
it just
full
gives a
touch.
weird feeling on it.
Distance away, yeah.
Unchanged, kind of like unscathed Ireland. To still,
Few we just
still us like.
Sean kind of wrote it from the perspective of like Roman soldiers having to be sent out to this desolate island that they're calling Hibernia because it's like the wintry, the wintry land kind of thing that they never did, take over like England and Scotland and all that, of course. And the fear that must have been in that scouting crew, we're headed over to these fucking crazy bastards over on this island here, and now, thanks a lot,
the Irish are supposed to be even worse. I suppose like that line,
Hadrian's Wall.
the Celts were tough enough in England, in Britain, modern day Britain now, so they were totally like, it's not even going to be worth it going over to Ireland, forget them. And that was linked to Romulus and Remus in a way, whereas they're the beginning of the Roman Empire in the first place, where Romulus either kills him or one of his followers does, and that's the betrayal. But they tie that festival in with Lupercalia, another wolf segment in the album again, but that festival was ancient up to that time, and the cave that they were found in, Romulus and Remus, they kept celebrating that every year anyway, and tied it in with an older pagan festival, where these high priests would go in and do all sorts of weird things, strip off and pour milk and blood over themselves, and use goat hide to whip the young maidens in the streets, and they'd kind of like actually take it as an honor to be whipped at this festival for fertility and all that kind of thing. But where my point is, between the Roman soldier, the Roman soldiers were actually homesick, lovesick, you know what I mean? There was a battle beaten and torn and worn and whatever, and it was I can't think of which Caesar, but he made it illegal for Romans to marry. But this is the whole story where it's celebrated on the 14th of February, and this is where Valentine's Day comes from. So
very romantic being whipped in the streets, isn't it?
We don't make it like they used to.
Instead of being whipped in the streets, now we just give ladies flowers and chocolates.
But a little more civilized.
But the point is that where even where Saint Valentine came from, so he was marrying Roman soldiers illegally or behind Caesar's back, just to keep all the boys happy. Because the Caesar didn't want them he wanted them battle ready, and didn't want anyone on their mind, but they were just doing it anyway.
But tying back into Hibernia as well, though. But there's a link. With everything
that's
like
weird
that as well. Of
I don't know
course,
why we went there, but
But I mean, like for a band like that are named like Arjuna's Eye, after that Was he from India or?
Yeah, it's from there's a book called the Bhagavad Gita, and it's more like, I mean, it's really mythology at the end of the day. They're all metaphors, right? Like there's nothing literal going on here necessarily. It's all for interpretation, and yeah, it like so.
It works
like,
for Mastodon.
I presume like you came up with that name for the band, and that was your own solo project, correct?
Initially, yeah. It was just
And
something
then-
to get the ball rolling.
But like
I
it's
suppose.
just ironic then that you meet the two lads that are so like Sean and Aaron that are so much into that side of things as well.
It's strange how life works out.
It is
really,
very
really is.
strange.
Because there was no, like, when I finished that first album, there was no plan on moving here or anything like that. I ended up meeting my partner on the last day. And Louise and I were
on the last day.
We only know you
personally
personally because of our brother.
and that's the other thing. It's like they're older brothers. How I met them.
Another one.
Yeah. It just
Jamie.
It is crazy how everything comes together. The one like these two guys are, they're like two of the closest people in my life now. So
it's amazing, and I don't think there's ever been a metal album with so many members of one family on it.
We'll get the rest of it on the next one.
What's it? The Partridge Family?
The
they
Partridge
outdo
family
it,
or
don't they?
the Kelly family, or the folk.
There you
go.
Well, speaking of the Arjuna family, I suppose we now have our full band, and we have a new guitarist, a new drummer. I suppose that
Shout
definitely
out
have to be mentioned to them.
Killian and Rory, isn't it?
Yes,
big
It's about
shout
time
out.
we talked about the lads there. Enough about us.
Fair play.
We wouldn't be able to go anywhere near a stage without these lads. Like,
and they
and
really
great players too.
great
fantastic.
players.
Yeah, you chose well.
Man, Rory and Killian, they're such professionals at this. We're everyday boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, these guys like have the experience, and they've really shown it. Like, and we were just practicing last night, and it is just such a good feeling. Like we're ready to play.
Yeah. And now that we're playing with click tracks and things like that, it's a lot. That's another aspect to take on as well.
No, we're not playing with
that
click
we
tracks.
hadn't
That's not true.
We're just perfect.
Yeah.
But I mean, to take that on for all of them, the lads to take on all those new songs and even some old ones,
And
it's a
absorb
big
them
undertaking.
Yeah.
They're more. They suit the band very well. In fairness.
Yeah. No. Also, we'll say getting back to you, Conor. Kind of for the first album, am I correct in saying you did most of the vocals yourself?
Yeah. Everything on there except for the final drums was I did, and it's out of a dire need to just get it done.
Of course. Yeah.
I just got to do this kind of thing, and the drums were done by Yuma Van Eekelen, like I was saying, that guy there. So,
but so just the transition then, when you're meeting Sean, then, who lads we all agree his vocal performance on this album is stunning.
Yeah,
it is. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
It's some performance. Just want to get back to that. So Conor, like as a vocalist, had he to prove to you, or were you comfortable kind of mixing ideas? And
there was a series of tests.
Yes.
No, I'm just joking.
Trial of the grasses. Trial of the grasses.
No, I was just like, really, man, you want to play? No,
Well,
initially Sean was going to play bass.
Yeah,
And-
which he does on Kronos, by the way.
And he does on Kronos.
Okay,
Yeah, so
I
he
got
has
the
bass
songs
credit.
wrong earlier. We were talking about Beast Mode.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, initially Sean was going to play bass.
Right.
And then we were kind of talking about it and speculating and going, well, maybe we can share vocal duties.
Right.
And then we gave it a go with that
Okay.
first album. And we're like, these rhythms are way too fucking difficult to be singing to.
Okay.
So let's just
that's-
assign
that's-
roles and just
okay.
do the best we can with
That's
what
what
we
I'm
have.
trying to
So
get to.
yeah. So at the end of the day, it worked out really well that way, because we're like, Sean's brother Aaron, who I knew for a few years at that point, quite honestly, and I was like, that's
Give it a whack.
And
Yeah.
G lads are playing in Cove, Boys from Hell, Pantera.
Yeah,
Was that going
So-
before Conor came
So
back?
that was going before Conor, and
Okay.
that was rolling along. So we were already kind of getting a bit of experience on the metal scene and having a bit of fun with that. And it's it's not.
And I mean, like, Cove Boys was really our first venture into being a frontman singer. Like, he was he had been a bass player for so long and hadn't even spent your whole kind of bass career singing, even backing vocals, but
Right.
even though he had a good voice. But it's a big step for Sean to really do that, and he's come, I don't know, it's like he has 20 years experience in 10,
Yeah.
Not even
and of
10.
course, I suppose you earned your chops as frontman for that Pantera.
I suppose that was probably the best thing for me. Like, I mean, I always thought, I'd love to do that, or I had the feeling that, maybe I could do that, and but nearly, that was like my learning, my stepping stones into that. And I said, look, Conor, we've got this band, how about we give this group give it a go? And so like everybody bar the drummer was up for it, and that's where the drummer problem started. Where how hard it is to find a good drummer and who's committed and who's into your stuff is the main thing. So
and that stuff in particular. Because there was a question that popped up as for regards to the drumming goes. Like, it was kind of like, I remember Yuma asking me, going, all right, so I'd programmed the drums in rough beats kind of thing, and Yuma goes, so do you want me to play something to the songs that's approachable for other drummers for when you do get a drummer, or do you want me just to do my own thing? Yeah. And I was stupid enough to say, no, man, do your own thing. It's great. And it's like, and then now it made it impossible to find a drummer. But we did have some very brave volunteers come forward, but
do you want to give a shout out to a few of them?
So I suppose how many are there?
Well, in particular, there was one young fella named Michael McCarthy,
right?
And I would say that
another Cove
boy. He'll end up playing drums no matter what he does, whether he's teaching them or instructing or live or studio or something. But he's a bit of I'd call him to be honest, a bit of a prodigy on the drums. He really, really is, and he really stepped up.
Yeah, we were grateful and very lucky to be able to play a couple of live gigs, with Michael's help. And we've had, help from other drummers too.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that last, the Textures final tour we played for with them in Dublin, Michael was actually shortly just out of the band, and we had to get a very short term, in a very short amount of time, find a drummer. I think we had 2 weeks to prepare, and we got
Atreyu
Keneally, yes, another great drummer like that, especially metal drumming, But we were very lucky to get him to, so we didn't have to cancel the gig, and I mean we were very lucky to get him.
But let's end on a note here. Where, like, again, our drummer now, Rory Power, he
Power being the
great name.
Rory Powerhouse, but he's really stepped up. He's really stepped up.
And of course, I getting back to the Pantera tribute, I saw you actually. He played in Dolan's after Amana Mort.
Were you there for that?
Technically, I was. I know I was down the front giving it holly,
fair play.
There's not much I can remember about it, lads. But I do remember you were brilliant,
But no, I appreciate that. No, because when I walked in the door tonight, he goes, I know this guy from somewhere now.
Yeah, there was myself. Shout out to Jack from Carosa, and Alex from Toombs was there as well. So there was the three of us just going mental.
Yeah, nice one.
And another lad, James Curley from Galway. So that was a great night.
Yeah, Dolan's is a good spot, but what a day! Man. Like, I mean, that gig in the castle, man. Oh,
amazing!
That was so cool. Like,
did you go, Aaron? Or
no, actually, I wasn't there. No, for that. I suppose ever since being in working in Holland, I kind of had to step out of my position there, which I'm more than happy about. I mean, the new bass player, what's his name again?
Bob Morgan stepped up there for 2019 anyway.
I mean, Bob Morgan he is Rex Brown to me. I've seen a couple of pictures. He has all the rundown. He has the same gears and pretty much everything in the.
Yeah.
So just I want to give a shout out as well to Doug
Silo
with the artwork. Interesting story, I'd say. He's a Canadian.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's done work for what's the guy, the astronaut?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Jeez, I don't actually. But no, but he has though. That's right. Yeah.
He's like, you must have met him when he was kind of a bit way younger, probably, was he? And
I'd say Doug's roughly my age anyway. But I knew Doug years ago through a friend,
right?
And I remember seeing his art online and seeing. I think it's called Intervention is the name of the painting, and it's a huge painting actually, and really, really well done. I was like, that would be an amazing album cover, you know, and sure enough,
He gave it to you.
I bugged the shit out of him and he was willing to use that painting, or willing for me to use that painting for the first album. So the first album is Doug. He painted that picture, and then and I was like, well, if we're going with Bart again, let's go with Doug again, because like if it's not broken, don't fix it, in a way, I suppose. Yeah, and keep it ritualistic.
And I'm sure he enjoyed getting the call up from me as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because we were a pain in his ass sometimes. He was a pain in ours. We were a pain in his. But no, it worked out really well. At the end of the day, we're all of us were quite happy with everything. Yeah.
And just your own background, Conor. Born and bred where?
Alberta, Canada.
In Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
And with a name like Nagel,
that's my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, I won't go into my great granddaddy and that kind of thing, but yeah, like my dad's side of the family is Irish Canadian essentially, right. And
so just kind of your own background, and briefly, like you got into, like you're a fantastic guitar player. How did that come about? Was it through lessons or just self-taught?
Yeah, like I mean, I played like every Canadian kid, every Canadian boy plays ice hockey, right?
Yes.
Growing up, and I played from the age of 5 to 15, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And I think it was around when I was 14, we went to a flea market, which is kind of like a car boot sale here, kind of thing, a big kind of warehouse thing. And I saw a guitar there, and I was really into Metallica, Pantera at the time, being 14 years old. And I was like, there's this crazy looking Ibanez guitar, right? Like Ibanez Axe Star is the name of the guitar.
Okay.
If you ever look it up, it's just weirdest little body on it. But
do you still have it?
I still have. It's actually my dad still has it at his house. Yeah, I wanted to can you keep that safe for me? You know, because I want to keep it. So and he bought me that, and that was the end. That was the end of that season in hockey. I finished out the season and haven't turned back. It's been guitar ever since. Yeah.
Self-taught. Yeah.
I took a few lessons for, I'd say, for maybe 9-10 months or something like that, and when I first started, but after that it was kind of get on some tablature and get on it.
And influences,
Dimebag Darrell, James Hetfield,
the best of the best then.
Yeah, well, I suppose, at the time definitely, and John Petrucci then definitely from Dream Theater, his precision and like the way he takes it to another level with what he can do. But but Dimebag Darrell and James Hetfield initially were definitely the big ones. Yeah.
That's really cool. And then you decide, what was it? Just because your girlfriend moved over to Ireland, or had you been back and forth? Or
no, I had met her actually
in Cove
here. Like she's from Cove.
Oh, okay.
She's an Irish girl. She's So
the things you do for love.
That's it. So I had met Lou. We were not expecting to meet. I met they knew my partner before I did.
Okay.
And
were you just over in?
I was just over visiting. I went to a 30th birthday party. Actually, it was one of her best friend's 30th birthday party. I got invited over with their older brother Jamie, and showed up there. And then there was this curly blonde-haired Irish girl that.
Right.
8 months later, I moved over.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's more or less the.
I was like, I just finished an album. Why am I meeting someone now? You know.
This whole album is really thanks to her, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah.
You mightn't have been here.
That's
I know,
true.
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
It is a bit of a kicker, to be honest. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And look where you are now. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Past gigs. So you played the Siege last year, did you? No,
we did. Was it last year?
2 year and a half.
Bloody hell, was it 2018 or 2017?
2017.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. Oh no.
I thought it was last year.
I thought it was last year.
Spring last year, was it?
It was last year.
Yeah, that's
it was
right.
early last year. Yeah.
We're losing track of stuff.
What do you think of it? Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it was great. We played the I can't remember the stage name, but it was the upstairs stage. You know,
that's what it's called, the upstairs.
Was it just the upstairs? But that was great. I mean, we were on at a nice time, and I think the upstairs as well. I don't know, was it a fluke or what? But there was some class bands, kind of like maybe not so old school, not so different, but there was a few bands like along our kind of lines that had similar kind of a sound to them anyway, so that kind of style of metalers kind of seemed to gather in that point anyways, which made it great, so we gained some new fans and things that day.
I think we opened up that day on that stage, did we? So maybe that's why people are kind of curious what's going on up here.
That's right, yeah.
It's great the way that works.
I don't know, we can't announce stage times or anything, can we? At this point, no. But can we mention where we are?
No.
Okay, sorry. We're playing the Siege this year. That's as much
in
as
County Limerick. That's it.
Yeah.
Ireland. It's in Limerick at Dolan's. Yeah.
I should those dates are out anyway. For the Siege. But you also took part in Metal to the Masses as well. And I just want what was your opinion of that? It's kind of like a band competition, like the old days.
Yeah.
You were up against a bit of competition there as well, weren't you?
We were, and I suppose main thing, I suppose we came away going, oh God, we would have liked to have gone through. I think was it only the first
was it 2 went through maybe?
heat or something like that? So but I think alright, like we were pretty much unknown, and I suppose like having a crowd vote would help. So there was people complimenting the band and the music and all that. But I suppose it'd be nice to maybe get a bit better known in Dublin, kind of first maybe for. And you'd have physical, actual fucking votes going in, for people who would support you. Like,
well, I mean, look, this is what this podcast is about as well. We've got plenty of listeners around the country, so people will be more aware of you anyway.
Yeah,
cool.
It's actually
that'll help.
It's hard to remember that when you're just here having a conversation. That it's going to be out there. Like, people are listening. Like,
is it true that you broadcast to Canada as well?
Yeah, which is great, man. I mean, that's a nice coincidence.
It is too. Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah, so we'll talk about our cousins later.
Yeah.
Where the heck?
So what else, lads? The album launch. Yes, let's get to the album launch now, which is October the 18th.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So
it's coming Friday.
Tomorrow night, is it? So this is Friday the 18th.
Yeah.
In the Paddocks Bar, Cove Pirates Rugby Club.
Right.
Over the years has had a nice bit of rock history up there.
Nice.
And some good times up there over the years with other bands and everything. So it felt like it's a good room to have a party in anyway, first of all, because it's what we're going to do is hopefully, I suppose, just say like doors would be for 9:30.
Right.
There'll be some like DJ tunes, like a bit of party atmosphere. We'll go on at, I don't know what time exactly, but like we'll go on and play the set, and we won't be up there for too long. You know what I mean? We'll play the whole album, and we might do a little kind of chat and nice one to the crowd and all that, and come down and drink the rest of the night away. Then so it's mainly party atmosphere.
And it is just a nice kind of thing for anyone, like any family and friends, especially in Cove, that mightn't be used to travelling or used to going to all day metal gigs to wait around and see us, this kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Anyone that can't go to it will be in Fred Zeppelin's the following Friday. And that's the jazz weekend. So there's 2 cool gigs happening there that weekend, but we'll be there on the Friday night. And
you've got those lunatics, the dirty casuals. Shout out to Jim.
That's right.
And Slacker Symphony. I wouldn't know too much about them.
No, not yet.
Pretty much unknown. Sure. So we're looking forward to doing that gig with those lads there as well. I'm sure it'll be great crack. And then of course we just spoke out the Siege on the Sunday then, so it's all happening in the next week or so there, and we're really looking forward to it. We're pumped,
we can't wait to get on stage, really.
So one more thing about Friday, just a shout out to Jamie Stanton and Cove there. He's he's actually sponsoring the PA and his time for doing the sound for us.
Nice.
Because it's not a venue, it's just it's a club, we'll say, and we over the years always had to drag a PA system up there and do everything ourselves, but props to Jamie, thanks very much for giving us his time for doing that for us on Friday night. We're really grateful for that.
I guess we'll get when we play Echolocation, we'll give it up for him for that one. It seems to be his favourite one so far.
I think so.
There you go. Anyway,
sure.
So how far do you think you can take this album, lads? What's your kind of
sky's the limit, bro? No, sorry.
Well,
it's just a labour of love, really. It seems to be I suppose resonating with people, so the more that can happen, that keeps us happy. But I mean, if we get to go and play to as many people live as we can, that's brilliant.
That's great. I'm kind of panicking as well while this is happening. I'm trying to look for more gigs and stuff, and at the moment there's only these 3, and I'm going, it'd be great to obviously play as many shows as possible. So if there was any slots out there that people needed us to play,
cool.
November, December, give us a shout. Be more than happy to jump
for
in.
November and December, is it?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Give us a shout and see.
We do have gigs come springtime booked as well. But in the meantime.
Is that shush? Is it?
No, we're not. That's all I'll say.
It's just
Still, are you all? I know the rock and roll lifestyle would be fantastic for everybody to live that way. But are you trying to still kind of hold down full-time jobs while doing this as well?
Well, first of all, anyway, I want to run away. No, I'd have a very understanding wife and supportive wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much time I'd get to say if there was a, I would if there was an opportunity that came for me, I'm sure that'd be all okay. For me to go do what I need to do.
You look at the likes of Zahora there now. They can kind of do a 4-day or 3-day UK tour, 5 days.
That's very doable for us.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Doable.
That is doable.
Yeah.
I suppose particularly
3
those
to 4
actually,
anyway.
I mean, and depends on the circumstance too, right? Because if it ends up being something where we can cover our end of our expenses at home or whatever it is, and still keep our partners and family happy and things like that, of course, I mean, we'll do whatever we can.
Yeah. I think myself, having listened to the album, it's something there that I think, as I said, look, I said it's one of the best releases this year, in my opinion, and I can't see why people wouldn't want you on stages around Ireland and certainly the UK too,
Wow.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. It's down to me and a few others to get you, the next step,
Much appreciated, man.
So,
to be honest.
We'll welcome anything that comes our way at this point.
And again, another thing as well, obviously, with the Siege as well, is just network. There's plenty of bands coming to the Siege from the UK.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing some bands that I might have never seen as well, because the Irish metal scene, can we just mention, is really seems to be going through the roof these days.
The level is mad.
Yeah, the talent out there is class.
And they'll get you up and down Galway, Dublin, whatever. But
we're yet to play Galway. I'd like to play there. I think. Yeah,
that's cool. But I mean, as I said, talk to these bands over for the Siege.
Yeah,
and do a bit of networking.
We'll do a bit of shoulder rubbing and see what's going on there. Yeah.
Definitely, that's one of the great things about the Siege, because there's plenty of bands that have played that and have traded shows with other bands, from Scotland.
And to anybody who is playing the Siege, we're very approachable guys. So come up and say hello.
Smack us in the ass.
Yeah, well, maybe a couple of us, but
and the whole Frahel family will travel.
Yeah.
So that's it, lads. As I said, just wish you nothing but success with the album. Thanks a million for coming on the show.
Thanks, Richie.
Thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure, Richie. Thanks, man.
A shout out to the 2 lads that couldn't make it, Rory and Killian. I also want to give a shout out to Colin as well and Zahora. So they're starting a tour as well, and joining them are their lifelong friends and fellow riff merchants Everest, Queen and Sale. Both bands hail from the UK, and it'll be their first time on Irish shores. So the tour will come through Belfast, Dublin, Cork and finish in the Siege. The dates are October the 21st in the Berliner in Belfast, October the 25th in Sinead, Dublin, October the 26th in Fred Zeppelin's in Cork, and October the 27th, which is the Siege of Limerick. So Sale won't be performing at the Siege of Limerick. So check Zahora out and that great tour. Fantastic Irish band as well. So you've been listening to the Metal Cell podcast. Find me on Facebook and Instagram, and if you're a band want to come on the show, just contact the metalcell@gmail.com. And I'm going to leave you with which song is it? Trial of the Grasses. So check that out by the lads. Arjuna's Eye. That's it. Over and out.
Bye bye.